Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our podcast. And today we have our good friend and our former classmate, Eva, joining us. So we used to be in the same class for master, and we're the class of 2023. And the last time we saw each other was 3.5 years ago, and really lovely to have you here. So, Eva, can you just briefly introduce yourself, what you did in the past, and what makes you want to do a master in the first place?
Yeah. Well, it's really good to see you both
Yeah.
again, and thank you for having me on this podcast. Yeah, so my journey to now, it's a bit, I don't know, maybe it's like a interesting one, but I feel like, yeah, everyone has a different journey. But I was always sporty growing up, but I never did like a sport to a very like high standard. I'd do like lots of different sports. And at university, I actually, in my undergrad, did a bachelor's in environmental science. I actually wanted to go work with the UN in like kind of sustainable development. But I think it was in my second year of uni, I got recruited during the Freshers' Week sports fair into rowing, and there was a British rowing um, talent ID program called World Class Start, and they were just looking for tall, sporty people, basically. And you kind of did a physical test, and then they'd say, "Yeah, you've got potential. Do you want to kind of come on to this program?" So I was in Manchester at the time, so the program was based at what's called Agecroft Rowing Club, but it's in Salford. So if you watch BBC Breakfast News, that's where they film it. So there's like a media city, but there's like a waterway and stuff. So I was doing it there. And yeah, got completely sucked into high performance sport from that point in rowing. So that was like 2018, 2019.
Mhm.
Um, and then I mean, I completed my undergrad, but very much went to training instead of lectures, and then was trying to make it onto the GB team. It's a very intense process, but I really enjoyed it. Lockdown and pandemic hit, and I just finished my undergrad. I think it was in 2019. So I'd been rowing for a year, finished my undergrad, and then decided to train full time in rowing, not continue my kind of career within environmental science. Um, and was working part time as like a VA for businesses,
Mhm.
but training full time. Then lockdown hit, training some more, and basically over lockdown is when I started experiencing burnout in rowing. So was really pushing hard. Kind of my whole life revolved around rowing, and I think I went through a period of overtraining as well, and so my performances started to plateau. That had a bad impact on kind of my mental health. Also over the pandemic, I mean, it was like a really tricky time for everyone, kind of that period of time. So there was stuff happening at home that was really tricky whilst trying to balance the full-time training whilst being in lockdown, and it was all just kind of spiraling. And I think it was by like February 2021, I just decided, right, I can't do this high performance version of rowing anymore. So I took a step back and then was kind of figuring out what I wanted to do. And because the mental aspect of rowing, um, I really saw how it impacted my performance and my well-being. And also, my mum is a psychologist, and I've worked within
Mm.
kind of the psychology field because I was helping her with her business, which is all around supporting psychologists in private practice and doing business coaching with them. So I was seeing a lot of psychologists in private practice doing different things. They weren't necessarily in sports psychology, but it's kind of yeah, that and burning out in sport inspired me to go and do sports psychology. So, because my undergrad was in environmental science, I had to do a conversion course in psychology. So, that was like a 1 year master's. It was actually an online course with Manchester Metropolitan, so was able to kind of do it from home. I was in Manchester at the time, but the flexibility of doing it online was quite appealing. And then once that was done, I needed to do a master's in sports psychology, and that's when I applied to University of Greenwich. So, I mean, I was moving to London at the time um, with my partner who'd gotten a job in London, and I was still working with my mum in her business, and that's all online, so I can kind of like move wherever and still work. So I was just looking for a London-based master's degree. Um, and yeah, chose Greenwich, and then yeah, did my master's in sports psychology, but I did it part-time because I was still working within my mum's business. And then around when I was getting into sports psychology, I did find my love for rowing again. So I was started to train a lot more around that time as well. So yeah, that's kind of, I don't know, I rambled on a bit, but that was the kind of journey into sports psychology.
Amazing. And this is how we met you.
Yeah, yeah, in Greenwich, which you can see behind us.
Yeah.
Sunny Greenwich. I mean,
Just
it's a
highlights, yeah.
beautiful place to like do a master's degree. It's very cool.
Yeah, the building's definitely a selling point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. With the
No, it
view
just
onto the
highlights
gym.
the different routes, doesn't it? Like everyone's gone in slightly different way, and it's possible. Like it might seem like a more long-winded way, but actually you're learning more along the way, aren't you? And doing that conversion course must have made your decision maybe a little bit easier. Actually confirmed your reasoning why you wanted to do sports psychology.
Yeah, I think as well over lockdown, I got really interested in kind of women's physiology and women in sport, and was listening to a lot of podcasts and kind of being having like my eyes open to how sports for female athletes is so geared towards men. And so I was really driven also, like, as well as the kind of mental health, mental skills aspect of sports psychology, I really wanted to push to support female athletes even from the start. So I was that motivation carried me through the conversion course as well. Um, because I just really wanted to get to the point where I started the sports psychology stuff, because like the conversion course is kind of general psychology. Whenever there was like an essay or a dissertation where you could choose the topic, I was choosing sports psychology and women in sport. I was making a point like there needs to be more research in women in sport, so I will choose women in sport every single time. Um, but yeah, those were kind of like the motivations getting me to the masters as well.
Yeah, should we talk a bit about what our masters was like then? Did you carry on doing essay-based things about women in like women's sport in the masters too?
Yeah,
Because I
every
know we
single
had quite a
time.
few. Really, every
Yeah.
essay.
I think it was we had an essay in with Claire within the exercise psychology module. We had to do like a presentation and an essay, and I chose to do menopausal women in sport and kind of making sport more accessible to that group and what challenges they might have. My dissertation for my master's was interviewing female rowers about the effects of their menstrual cycle on their sports performance and their experience within sport. Um, yeah. I think maybe the only one I didn't do specifically about women was the one where we had to like break down um, a sports movement. Oh, we had to do a presentation. It was with Paul. What's it? I can't remember the name
I
of the.
remember it was like the techniques. I think I did like a football penalty, and you had to talk about the
Yeah,
techniques or something
yeah, yeah.
beforehand.
Oh yeah, the close skills one is.
Exactly. Yeah, the close skill. So I did something about like rowing, like a rowing movement. But I mean, I guess I chose myself videos of myself to demonstrate it. And I think every image I chose in the presentation was a woman in sport. I really like went for it.
I think that's the best thing though. You could adapt, like they gave you an assignment, but then you could tweak it to whatever area of interest you had.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I really liked that about the masters. And I think because I don't think we didn't have an exam, like a sit down exam for any of our assessments. It was always kind of coursework based. But yeah, I loved how adaptable it could be to what you were interested in.
Yeah.
I think that sets you up really well for then going into your training to get your chartership afterwards. Because it is so self-directed and you have to really kind of go with what your interests are.
And you already done all the research beforehand, so you've learned a lot more about it during your masters that you can carry on with you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Did you carry on with any of those coursework or any of those knowledge with you when you set up your private practice?
Yeah, I guess so. I'm still very much at the start of developing my private practice. So it's called Hera Elite Performance, and it's all about supporting female athletes. And yeah, so I've developed a lot of knowledge through the courseworks and research in the area. And I mean, at the moment, I'm in the process of developing kind of a group program for female athletes. So I think it'll be a 4-week program, kind of going over some mental skills training, but mostly I want it to be just creating a space for female athletes to come together and they can talk about all the things that they might be struggling with kind of mentally within their sport, and just having that safe space with other female athletes. But yeah, the knowledge definitely comes across into the private practice. Yeah.
It's a really good idea. So sometimes it's not about all the mental skills, but having a safe space for people just to open up and share their experience. And that is the skills itself. That is the technique for them to just to open up and share.
Yeah. And when I think back to like when I was experiencing kind of burnout as an athlete, it got better once I really started talking about what I was experiencing with people I felt psychologically safe with. So, I mean, for me, it was probably more like family, friends. Um, I maybe didn't have that within my sports setting. And yes, but I think it would have been really valuable to have a space within the sports setting that felt safe to open up and talk about the issues I was having. So yeah, if I can create that, I think having a space that's safe to open up for female athletes that is within sport, but that isn't necessarily with their coaches or within their specific sports environment could be helpful as well. Yeah, that's my thinking behind it.
What's the space like now for when you compete and when you train? Is that sports psychology support there for you if you wanted it?
Um, I think I would. I mean, I think it was this time last year I was working with a sports psychologist that I'd found kind of through my own network and searching online, and that was definitely helpful. I've also since coming out of the talent development program and falling back into performance sport, I really was intentional with the environment I created around me. So I have an online rowing coach who I found through Instagram. I think he's called Jack Burns, and I really connected with. He had a similar experience through his rowing and was really adamant that he wants to create a different environment for his athletes. So yeah, I work with him and another rowing coach called Alan St. Clair, and both of them are athlete first, like athlete as a person first, and they want you to be happy in your training. And that makes a huge difference. And I'm way more open about things going on outside of my sports performance or my sports training with them. I think having my own knowledge of sports psychology also helps me as an athlete. Doesn't mean I can like work on myself. Like you hear therapists
Yeah.
in clinical psychology, they can't therapy themselves. You have to find someone else to work with. But yeah, I'm very much training as an athlete on my own at the moment. I'm not part of a big um, talent development program or big squad that has its own
Mm.
sports psychology support. But I know how to create an environment that is more supportive for me.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that
was going
is.
to say you're probably equipped with more of the tools now to actually manage those steps.
Yeah, it's a long process. Like even when I was like doing my masters in sports psychology, I was having periods of time where like my I think I was a lot happier within my rowing and within my sport, and that was improving. But within my performances, my mindset was still getting in the way of my
Mm.
performances, even when I was learning about sports psychology. Um, and I think we potentially forget that as athletes and maybe sometimes as sports psychologists because it is so results driven and you want results fast. You
Yeah.
don't realize that it can be a very long process. But it's okay that it takes a long time. It's all a journey.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I'm definitely in much better space now. Kind of what we were saying, we last saw each other like 2.5 years ago. Like it's taken a chunk of time to get where I am now.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like
that
no
is
quick
true.
fix, is there?
Especially
So
when we work with athlete, yeah, it's the performance and then the enjoyment. Which one do we want to sacrifice and how we find the balance? And that is the key. Can you tell us a little bit more about the route you chose after the master? So it is cases, so
yeah,
SEPAR cases. Yeah, can you tell us a little bit more your journey, how you find your supervisor, how's your training like, what sort of experience or anything you got ever since?
yeah. So when we were at our masters, there was basically two routes: the BPS route and the KC's route. Um, I got the impression through the masters that the BPS route was a little bit more still in kind of higher education. There's a bit more research
Mm.
included in it, and then the Casey's route was a bit more applied. And to be honest, I'd been in education or on and off in education for quite a while, so I was like, I don't really want to do more research. um, which is fine. Like it's just people's personal preference, and I did want to go into more of the applied route, so that was kind of my decision making
Mm.
criteria. Um, and then after that, for finding a supervisor, I think it was in my second year of my part-time master's, so it wouldn't have been the year we were in the same cohort. It was the year after. Um, Dr. Aura Goldman came and did a class on ACT, so acceptance and commitment therapy within sports psychology. And I'd heard about it before and was really interested in it, and then really enjoyed how she was like teaching and also how she was kind of pushing back on um, how things have always been done in sports psychology.
Mm.
And I've always, I think maybe it comes from my like background in being interested in kind of sustainability and the UN and stuff is like I love like kind of big picture system change. I want to change the system, improve it. And kind of I liked that aspect of how she was presenting it. So I mean, I contacted other supervisors around the time I was looking for a supervisor. I think that's really important. Have like 20-minute calls with different types of supervisors and get to see what a good fit is and who you kind of gel with and in how they work as a supervisor as well as kind of what
Mm.
their philosophy is with sports psychology and everything. But yeah, it's been really good. I'm still working, so I'm doing the Casey's pathway over 4 years, so it's part-time. Because I'm balancing still working with inspiring psychology practices, which is the business coaching business that I run with my mum. Um, do the Casey's SEPAR pathway, and then also I'm still rowing at kind of a high performance standard. So I've got this, I always imagine it as a little like triad of things, plates I'm spinning here and there, but they all kind of integrate really well with each other. So yeah, and I think that's why I've leaned into private practice as well. Like I want the flexibility of private practice. I think if I was to have kind of a employed job within an academy or something, it wouldn't give me the flexibility I need, especially with my sport. So yeah, at the moment, it's very much doing a lot of like CPD training. My next thing is hopefully launching this Hera program and starting one-to-one work with athletes, I think this summer. So yeah, just taking my time with the training and getting comfortable with things and then getting going with it with athletes.
Yeah, it sounds great. I think a big thing is you're promoting yourself on social media, and that's probably getting a lot more attention.
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
also, I can imagine it must take a lot of time to edit it and everything.
yeah, it's definitely, yeah. And some weeks feel easier than others, that's for sure. And to be honest, so for the past, I think like 16 weeks, I've been on a social media accelerator course, I think it's called. And it helps with accountability because yeah, producing the content is tough. With everything else going on, so having that accountability because you submit social media posts that you've done and you get feedback and everything, but also having the support in understanding the kind of Instagram marketing side of it, which is then also really interesting to balance with kind of what I stand for as a sports psychologist, because social media can be a lot of like well, these like quick fixes, like do these three things to
Yeah.
get this fast result, and a lot of content production and overproduction and a lot of like consumerism and everything. It's this kind of tornado happening on one side, and it's interesting to stick to your values and your kind of philosophy as a sports psychologist within that system. Um, but yeah, it's been fun, and I've made sure to show myself as an athlete within my Instagram account as well, and I think that's connecting with a lot of people. So yeah, I'm enjoying it at the moment, and I'm enjoying it's producing a lot of like conversations with people, which is really nice. Yeah, through like messages and in comments, and I've ended up starting some collaborations with other businesses and stuff, which is really exciting. So I'll keep producing the content.
Yeah, that is amazing. So obviously you have been partnering with your mom for years, and just do you have any advice for trainee like us if we want to start out our private practice? What would be the best way to showcase ourselves to the world to get clients? Do you have any advice?
Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing that we help psychologists with in inspiring psychology practice is to find your own voice. And even if you think, oh, someone is in the same sector as me. So say within sports psychology, it's like, oh, but there's so many sports psychologists who like specialize in football or football academies. Like, how am I going to stand out? You like if you bring yourself into your practice, it will be as unique as your fingerprint because you are such a unique person. There's no one else like you. There's no one else who thinks like you, has your experiences. We're all so diverse and different. So if you can find a way, and we call it like your essential story of your practice, and so you are part of your essential story, the people you love to work with are part of that essential story. And so if you can really hone into what that message is and what that looks like for you, people will really connect with that. And so yeah, we kind of promote finding your voice and learning how to communicate that to others, and then also promoting collaboration, community. Like there's so much like division and just a whirlwind happening on social media and within the world. Like we need more kind of interaction and community. And if you can create a space that promotes that, I think that's a really good place to start with private practice.
We have to stand by our value and we have to showcase it and really stand for it.
Yeah. And it can be tricky, right? Because like you're bringing your true self in front of an audience who a lot of the time you don't see. And that can feel vulnerable. And that's completely valid. Um, but it can be really rewarding. Like you end up creating, so like the products you create, the jobs you find, they become really aligned with what matters to you, and then that work feels really meaningful. So like sitting with that uncomfortable vulnerability of being online, it is uncomfortable at times, but the rewards from it can kind of outweigh it.
And I think even though it's such a long journey, like some people might be put off. And I think we were just talking before we start the recording of, yes, we're told what training might be like during stage 2 part, but you don't actually fully know until you're invested in it.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, and I think sitting with that uncomfortable feeling is part of it. Like, I mean, yeah, I had my quarterly review with my supervisor yesterday. It was our second one, and I'd realized in my first quarterly review all the list of things I said I would do in the next 3 months, and then most of it I didn't do. Um, and but that's okay. Like making it, like you could call it a mistake, but making these like mistakes is normal, and I think it does take a bit longer to kind of really get a groove and a feel for like what you're doing, especially at the start of your chartership journey. And yeah, I think especially because we're all interested in sport, and sports environments are very results driven, very like you have to progress quickly. And so I think maybe we internalize some of that in like how we go through our training. But yeah, and it's fine to have those moments of doubt and frustration and feeling, oh, I'm not doing good enough and stuff. Like those thoughts will happen. You can't really control them. But if you have a bit of reflection later on and have those realizations, like this is part of my development. I need these moments of uncertainty to find clarity later on and find my groove. And if one aspect of how I'm doing my training isn't working out now, that's fine. That means I've figured out that's not how I want to work in this specific area. Let's move on to something new that might be more aligned. So yeah, it's tricky to navigate. It feels uncomfortable, but it's kind of part of the process.
Yeah, totally agree. And I guess that is the whole point of the training journey is to make mistake and we learn from it and we progress from it. And hopefully at the end we qualified, become a sports site.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to do my first kind of bit of, because I'm very early on in my training, and I'm going to do my first bit of like role play with a group of other trainees with my supervisor in a couple weeks' time. And my supervisor said, You are going to feel so nervous and strange doing role play for the first time, and you are going to make mistakes. And she said, like, I can't believe some of the things I've said in role play, kind of like I would never like kind of do it again, but you learn from it and you have to like get used to that, yeah, kind of nervous, uncomfortable feeling of doing role play. And then even probably with your first clients, you'll feel that kind of nervousness and awkwardness and not knowing if you're doing it completely right at the beginning. But yeah, that's part of it. And I think the fact that you have a supervisor, you have that support, you have that training means that you are still doing it in a safe, ethical, effective way with those athletes, even though you're kind of learning along the way with those athletes, which is very valuable.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we only, I think in masters we only did 1 or 2 role plays, and I just remember how awkward they were. But actually, the more you do them, the more you'll get practice out of it, and then you can hopefully take that into the one-to-ones that you do with clients.
Yeah. I mean, you guys are like what, a year, at least a year ahead of me. Have
Hands a
you
bit
done
more
lots
ahead.
of Have you done lots of role plays, and do they feel more comfortable the more you do them?
I think the initial first few minutes feel a bit uncomfortable, then you have to get into it and block that bit out
Yeah.
and actually just get on with it.
Yeah.
And I always feel this really different compared to the actual session when you're with your client.
Right.
Because during role play, you know that you're being assessed or monitored at some point. But when you're actually in a session, it just feels like, oh, I'm actually impacting someone else's life there. And
Is
that
that
is
good or
really
bad?
interesting.
It's
I
I
think
hope
different.
I'm
some
doing
sessions
a
go
good
better than
job.
others. Yeah, it's not always going to go how you want it. And I think me and Cam were speaking yesterday, and actually, Can, I think you said sometimes you should plan less when you're going into these and just make it a more natural conversation. Because if you plan every step and actually be like, this is how the conversation will go, the athlete might turn around and completely or talk about a completely different topic, and you have to just react to that.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. So in my first year of my training, I literally have a little book of mental skills, and I will bring that with me in the session. And I want to go through every single skills with the athletes. But now I just walk in and just see whatever I can get out of an athlete. And I found that more effective than going through any mental skills. And I feel like there is a really nice journey that I have changed from the beginning to where I am now.
Yeah.
And
I think sometimes if you're put on the spot, you'll be surprised with
Mhm.
how much you actually have recalled.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
sometimes, or it's like you'll be put with that situation, you need to get tested because the athletes can turn around and say, I don't know, anything really, can't they? And
Mm.
they'll surprise you, and actually you just have to go with the flow with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm training in person-centered therapy at the moment, and one of the kind of aspects of it is that it's self-directed. So it's the client or the athlete who is directing the conversation. And it's I think CBT, like cognitive behavioral stuff, is really prevalent in our training in like masters. And I think I've realized through doing person-centered training that when I was listening, I think I was listening to a role play, I was the observer, and the notes that I picked up on the person who was being the athlete were when something they were saying wasn't logical. And I would want to be like, pick that up with the athlete and say, do you realize let's unpick how this isn't logical and let's make it into something logical and kind of get a behavioral outcome from it, which is kind of more CBT, where the moment that we did want to pick up on was when the athlete was showing it was basically they were saying how they feel like a different person on the pitch than they do in training, and that's incongruence, it's called. And you pick up on that moment, it's like, oh, and then you become just curious and you're like, wow, that's really interesting. Like, how does it feel to be two different people? And then you're just being more curious, and then they're bringing more of themselves and
Yeah.
directing the conversation instead of you picking up on, oh, that's
Yeah.
wrong, let's fix it.
Yeah, I
Um,
think that's our natural instinct, isn't it? You just want
yeah,
to help fix the problem or
yeah,
whatever
yeah.
it is that's going on.
But I think that comes potentially, like one aspect of it is from the culture within sport, and therefore how it's fed into maybe sports psychology over the years, how it has been more like CBT and like results driven, and you are pressured to create results within sports
Yeah.
teams. So it's interesting to notice that kind of culture coming through in how like we process things as trainees and seeing if there's a different way to do it.
It'll be
It's a really
interesting
good
in, say,
point.
like a year's time, what your approach will be on that as well.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, it's yeah, things develop so quick. It feels slow in the moment, but then when you look back, you think, wow, things have changed so much in just the last 6 months, 3 months, year. Like it's an interesting yeah, comparison.
Well, I'm conscious of time, and we spoke about burns out. Do you have one piece of advice for people who experience burns out, and for you, what would be the best way to deal with it, and how you came across of the burns out during your during COVID, and then you reignite your passion for rowing, and you share a little bit of insights before we close the podcast today?
Yeah. Realistic, like what helped me the most was opening up about it. And also saying, like, really saying the thoughts that I didn't want to acknowledge. So one of them was, for me within rowing, is like, I might want to give up. And it's like, it was really tricky to like say that out loud, like I want to quit. And because you've within the development program I was part of, I saw so many people quit it and move away and stuff. And I was like, if I just don't quit, I could make it maybe. And I was holding on to that. But there was the little voice saying, but you might want to quit, but you didn't want to acknowledge it. But I think saying those moments out loud to someone you trust, it doesn't have to be someone within sports. It can be a friend, it can be a family member, it could be a teammate, just whoever you feel safe with, have those conversations, because speaking them out loud will help you like process what you actually want to do. And also, like, I mean, I talk about a lot in my social media. Like, I truly believe that you can perform at your highest level and also prioritize your well-being. You can be like a healthy, happy, safe athlete and produce amazing results. And I think sports environments can prioritize those things and still get results. They're not separate. Well-being and performance are not a separate thing. They have to be together. Um, so yeah, I think encouraging people to push for that, like, you deserve to be happy and healthy and feel good, and you can still perform when you have those things, but open up to people about it, talk about it to someone you trust. That would be my advice.
Thank you. That is a really good piece of takeaway.
Yeah, no worries.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me on the podcast. It was like, I love this little throwback to the Greenwich days with yeah,
Yeah.
the uni behind us and everything. And it's really good to see how you guys are getting on as well.